You're listening to the ArtStation Podcast.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the ArtStation Podcast. I'm co-host Kevin Strike, and I'm here with co-host Alex Beddoes.
Hello.
This episode is brought to you by ArtStation Marketplace. It's really easy to set up a marketplace on ArtStation. In just a few easy clicks, you'll be able to set up a store. And with that, you can sell tutorials, brushes, assets, pretty much any digital product that you'd like. Alex, you're quite a prolific user of.
Yeah, it's really good. It's good for me. You know, I give away a lot of my stuff as a means to help people learn. But it's a great addition to your sort of artist portfolio. It's an opportunity for people to see that you're able to create production ready stuff. So if you haven't got any production experience, it's a really good way for people to see, oh, this guy can actually create professional art, and they can actually see it in real time. So it's a really useful thing for growing your portfolio as an artist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So just before we start talking about this episode, I just would like to remind everybody, please help spread the word about the podcast. Hit subscribe, leave us a rating or review. It really does help. All right. So today we had the pleasure of talking to Ross Tran.
Yeah, this was an absolute pleasure. I mean, the guy just has so much energy and charisma. It's almost infectious. Yeah. We got into some really interesting things. I mean, we spoke about how he created his really successful YouTube channel. I mean, it has over 1 million subs, and you know what led him to create the type of content that he does. Some background on Ross, if you don't know, he's a California-based artist. He's a postgrad from the Art Center College of Design. He worked on multiple high-profile projects before pursuing a career as an independent artist, which is a huge, brave step to take as an artist. But you know, in the episode, we dug into how he kind of cultivated this YouTube channel and brands across his other social media platforms. There's an interesting topic on how you balance personal art versus professional art, which every artist knows. Like anyone who earns a living as an artist knows this is a real tough battle. So to hear him articulate that was really helpful. And like what success looks like on his journey. I mean, you know, for someone as big as him, you'd think you'd class it as sort of quote made it. But for him to explain what success looks like to him and the idea of leaving a legacy, which leads into the upcoming book he's got coming out, NIMA, which is based on his original IP. It's really great.
Yeah, it was really cool to talk about the book a little bit at the end. I've had some fun working on some books for ArtStation, so I'm particularly interested in his journey. I know making books are a lot of work, and he's really put a lot of work into this book. I have it myself, and just flipping through it, there's something new that you can discover each time that you pick it up, especially if you're interested in a fan of his NIMA IP. There's so much detail in this book about characters and story that's really, really interesting. Or if you're interested in someday like creating an IP of your own, if you have some ideas, this book like lays out a really nice template, things for you to think about if you're creating your own IP. And then visually too, just looking at all the artwork in here is really cool as well. So I'd recommend people to go check it out and buy it. You can get more information about the book or buy it on Ross's website, RossDraws.com. So please check that out. And I think we're ready to go. So please enjoy the conversation. Ross, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. It's nice to kind of talk with the ArtStation peep. You know, you guys have been around for a long time. I've been around for a long time, and it's nice to finally connect. I think we've met once, and you didn't have a beard that big last time, but now you look like, you know, you are you've been through some stuff.
I've been through a lot. The world has been through a lot, and I decided that, okay, I'm going to just grow a beard for COVID, and I have a little running gag going with one of my colleagues as well too, and it is quite entertaining, and I don't know how I'll be able to take it off because it gets so many laughs.
Right. No, I like it. It shows wisdom. So.
Cool. And Alex, good to have you joining as well.
Yeah, good to be back. Been looking forward to talking to you, Ross. I've been a big fan of your work for a long time, so I can fanboy out a little bit.
No, thank you so much. I like your shirt. Very festive.
Unfortunately, I've got a wrap for bowling shirts and Hawaiian shirts now.
All right. So before we get into the details, Ross, you're super popular. You have a huge audience on YouTube. and that audience is expecting something.
Mhm.
So do you find it hard to make what you want versus what the audience wants?
It's been a tricky journey, right? But I think at the beginning, it was all about like, this is my self endeavor. No one told me like, hey, do RossDraws. It was mostly kind of like I found it because I was lost, and I wanted to just create an awesome art channel that's fun and entertaining and just very inclusive of everybody. The door's open for everybody to learn. And I think over the years, it like started to become also because I do have to support myself, right? There are certain things that are more popular and not. And so I think every journey is you kind of have to find your balance between what you want to make and what your audience expects you to make. I think audience expectation is a huge thing. And so it's like a balance, but I think I found it. And I'm always trying to keep things fresh, and I want to like do new things and like listen to the audience, what they have to say, and kind of tweak, etc., like new video ideas, etc. I've been doing RossDraws for years, right? And so I think at the beginning I was a little pigeonholed, right? Because I would make like fan art because that was popular. Like redrawing Elsa, redrawing like I don't know, Furiosa was big at the time, like different Marvel movies. But lately, if you see my channel, there hasn't been any fan art anymore, and I've made that conscious decision to like I want to make more things that are like Milo and NIMA and like stuff I really enjoy. And so I think every creator has to listen at the beginning, but then they find their way and try to find their truth.
But with that, as an artist, when you're sort of on that stage where you've done your fan art and like you're trying to explore your new ground. Mm-hmm. I'm guessing there is a stage where like everyone's expecting a certain thing, as in, okay, we know you for your fan art and we're following you because they're really cool ideas for fan art, and then you start posting more and more of your own stuff.
Yeah.
Was there an initial point where it's like, oh, people weren't such a fan of this, or was it quite a clean transition in from like the fan art stage to your like more you stage?
Right. I feel like at the very beginning, my concept art phase was all personal. That's like the CG Hub days, the conceptart.org days. So I gained a small niche following that way. And then when I started YouTube, that's when I created all the fan art. And then I got that audience of like, like RossDraws Korra, all the Disney princesses, and they were super fun. I think the transition was smooth because the main essence of my channel is my personality. It's more of like the way I teach and my art style, etc. And so it wasn't like that rough. I think it was just like a conscious decision. I used to draw a lot of like video games, Overwatch and stuff like that. And they were super, super popular. And as much as I love like, oh yeah, let's try to like nail every week and make very like number hitting things, it was kind of like soulless in a way. And if we've chased the numbers all the time, then we're never going to be happy. And so I think like my audience feels that transition. It was pretty smooth. It wasn't abrupt like, hey guys, I've been struggling and I'm going to make the switch now. Like I've always sprinkled in personal stuff. I just do more of it now.
Just out of curiosity, like from your perspective, did you find it way more like? Did you have a noticeable change in how it felt to create the art as well? So speaking mainly about a YouTube channel, did it feel like easier when you made like a slow transition to like your own stuff, or like more sprinkling like not fan art stuff? Like did it make it easier for you to create the content? Because when we create art, sometimes when you're doing it for like from something else or for a specific reason, it can almost feel like a chore at times. Yeah. Whereas when it's like, this is just something I want to do, this is me. Did you get that feeling that it was like a weight off your shoulders?
I think you can go either way. I think it's almost more, I think it's easier to do the fan art because there's already set world. And so it's like, oh, Elsa, what can I brainstorm for this Elsa episode? Ice effects, ice thing. And so for me to be like brainstorm to be a more original channel, it was like more of a mental creative challenge, which I loved. Like, I think one of my video that did really well, I'm known for now, is our redrawing my fan drawings. And they would send in their old drawings and their current drawings, and I would redraw them. And so after I found some success of like a format that's not fan art, I'm like, you know, Ross, you're not tied to like fan art or any world. Like, you can kind of do whatever you want. And I feel like over the years, I've kind of escaped the prison I felt like I was in. Mm-hmm. And I put myself there. I feel like everything is mental. And so I feel like over time, I allowed myself to just like not think too much and just do.
Just maybe to expand a little bit on the prison that you found yourself in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I trapped myself in a routine where it kind of made me like a little depressed, because it was like, hey, let's videos every other week, and it has to be good, you know, because they take so much work and time. And so what's good at that time? Oh, Elsa's coming out. Oh, like Star Wars is coming out. And so I would always try to like bump up the statistics of the videos and then sprinkle in RossDraws energy where people can like fall in love. But over time, I'm like, I think people are coming to this channel for you. And it took me a long time to realize that, like, and so that's why I simmered the fan art. I'm like, hey, I'm just going to make fun videos that I want to make, you know, top 5 tips for character design. I have lots of things I want to teach. And I made my master course with Google. And I think we find our most success when we kind of go off on our own and do our own thing. And so I think it's just a prison I made, because if you notice, in general, fan art gets more traction. You know, oh, look at this take on Tracer. Look at this take on, you know, Elsa, your popular character, like Ariel. People find people through fan art. It's harder to make a name for yourself, like starting with original art, but it's like a slower burn. And so you peak faster with fan art. And so I wanted to try to really grow really fast. And then I realized it was soulless. and then I feel like I'm really back at my roots as a human being. And that's like why I made my Kickstarter. I felt I was lost in that time, and I wanted to make NIMA my Kickstarter because that was my true passion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I hear some similarities between the music industry and popular bands, where you could release a popular album and that brings all the fans. And then for your subsequent album, your producer wants you to produce something that sounds the same, but you as an artist want to express your creativity.
I totally understand that. You know, like a lot of artists, when they start in the music industry, they do like remixes, pop remixes for popular artists, you know, and what sounds good, that's all that matters. Like, oh, how do I get my name out there, kind of thing. And then their maybe debut album is a lot more intimate and special, and away from all the kind of remixes and heavy hitters. I'm not sure, but that's like my favorite artists. Their trajectory was they always start with like awesome remixes, and then they release stuff more intimate after.
It's almost like a lot of artists have to go through this kind of, there's that expectation period where you're like you said, okay, people expect a certain thing, and it eventually grinds on you. And I think all the prominent artists out there, music, film, TV, games, they have to go through that stage of, okay, I've been doing this. It's like you have to create something for you. And it's kind of, you're in that magical spot now where it's like, you do have an expectation to create content, but it's your content. Everyone wants to see NIMA. Everyone wants to see this content. So you've kind of gone past the expectation of someone else, and then you're just creating stuff for yourself. I think that's where every artist is, I suppose, is trying to get to, where people want to see more of you rather than more of you doing your take on something.
Right.
But I'm really curious to see what you think about this, because you mentioned it earlier about the RossDraws, where you're redrawing both your mom's drawings or like fan art.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think they're so popular? Because I've got a few things I'm curious about this subject, but why do you think the videos are so popular?
I think, well, my mom, I told my mom, hey, mom, we have like 2 million views on our video. She's like, wow. I'm like, she's like, wow. Like, so people know who I am. I'm like, I guess, mom. And so we were like trying to understand. And I think it's just like people like nowadays stuff that is genuine. And I think me and my mom's connection and relationship is genuine. And it's like, there's so much noise nowadays, like kind of like so many advertisements. They want you to buy everything, and it's just a lot of noise. And so I think the videos, they do well when it's like genuine and heartfelt. And that's why my mom and I make it a tradition to make a Christmas video every single year, and then a Mother's Day video. It's just like, we love making it together, and I think they see that. They love seeing my mom. They love seeing just like us and us drawing. And so I think they respond well to it because it's genuine.
So a follow-up to that is with the fan art side of stuff. Now, I'm working in the AAA games industry, and it's a lot of critique. That's the interacting with people, you're always critiquing each other's work, you're always commenting. And that's almost always, when artists are trying to get into the industry, is the biggest hurdle, is for them to learn to accept critique and not be, precious about art. Because it is a very intimate thing, receiving critique about your work. So it's almost, this is the bit which I'm confused by. It's like, this is the ultimate critique. It's you doing your take on someone else's work. Not so much with your mother stuff, because it's, like I said, there's a very genuine reason why that's popular. But that carries through into the fan art side of stuff, with people, redrawing your community's work. And it's like, people love that content, yet it's that almost ultimate critique of people resonate with it. I find it's really hard for me to wrap my head around why people enjoy seeing that so much, just from like a purely objective point of view. Because like I said, art's a very intimate thing, and it's easy to be precious about something, isn't it?
Yeah. Why is it fun for the artist that's getting their artwork critiqued in front of 2 million people?
I think it's more of them. People love transformation. That's why makeup is so popular. That's why all these videos that have beginning to end are so popular. I think it's less about like the critique and more about, let's see what happens. Like the magic show, there's always a buildup. Let's see what happened. Boom. And so I think you can almost structure every kind of entertainment like that. Let's see what happened. Build, story, like peak, finale. And so I think YouTube, my content is exactly the same. We have her set up. Mom comes in, she draws, it's cute, set up, boom. There is a reveal and then finale. And so I feel like people respond to the transformation.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I was coming out from like this sort of let's call it the professional mindset, but that makes a lot of sense from the entertainment point of view. It's entertaining to see that story.
Yeah. So one thing I've learned, we're designed as humans as like in 3/4, like 3/4, our human structure. Every song, every movie can be broken up into kind of 3/4. Near the 3/4 mark is where that peak happens. And it just works. It's how we're biologically engineered. And that's why my color dodge is always 3/4 in, draw, color dodge, end. Like every movie, build, peak, end. It's like a song. We have that juicy bridge, verse, bridge, beautiful, end. And so everything can be broken up into 3/4. Also art, the 3/4 rule, our phones, everything in life. And so me kind of understanding more of that, it's like, oh, that's really interesting information to learn about how we're engineered and kind of like put that into the videos.
So when you're making an episode, does the process start by, this is a story I want to tell and this is the peak that I want to reach, and it has a flow like that?
I think the way I start any video is if it excites me. And that's one thing I've learned over the years. It's like, it has to excite me, and it has to, like, if I take on any project, it has to make me like, oh, I want to do that. Because if we don't have that feeling, then like, why are we wasting our time with it? Is it for like the money that feels empty? You know, if it, like what is the motive behind it? And so when I make when I brainstorm video ideas, I'm like, oh, that sounds fun. That means I'm gonna have a good time. That means I'm gonna like turning my dog into the anime character. I'm like, oh, that sounds so fun. Let's do it, you know. And I always start my video ideas with something that feels fun to me, because if it's fun, then my audience will like it because I like it. And so after that fun inspiration, I start kind of plotting it out into things like a little more structured, you know? And I always try to add 2 or 3 memorable things people can remember when watching the video. If I were like, for example, turning my dog into an anime character, like there was a video where I turned Milo and I into anime characters. It was super fun. Maybe we can generate moves. You know, people like, my channel is all about gaming and like anime and moves. Oh, that's something they can remember. Like Sonic bark. Or something. Right. I always try to add 1 or 2 things people can remember the video by, and then I structure it around there. So I always start with the firework, and then when it simmers, it like fades, right? And so spark of inspiration, and then when it fades, it loses its shine. So it's like, oh, let's remember some things up here, and then nitty gritty, and then everything is pieced together.
So I suppose this is a bit of a jump. However, for you, you're one of the bigger artists out there. There's not many artists out there who could boast a million followers on Instagram and stuff like this. So there's a conversation I have with a lot of people who I mentor and I talk to, where they're like, oh, I want to get to the point where this artist is, that, you know, they have some artist who is their goal to reach to, and they quote made it. Yeah. During your journey, like when you're creating artwork, at what point did you personally reach that? Because obviously you're way past it now. You're up there, one of the biggest artists on the planet. What point did you feel like that term, I've made it? It's kind of I know it's a really ambiguous thing, but I'm curious to hear what your take on that is.
To be absolutely honest, that term, I don't feel like I've made it yet, because I'm talking true talk. I don't feel like I've made it yet, but I feel like I'm about to reach to a point where I can be happy. And my whole journey has been about that, you know, like trying to find my own happiness. And I can see how maybe other people think that I've made it. But my personal journey, I haven't made it. And I feel like that's why I've made NIMA. That's why that's the reasoning for every decision that I make. And so I'm making NIMA, I'm making my own personal stuff. I'm steering away from stuff that like maybe stresses me out, etc. Right. I think for me, the term making it, and when I can comfortably say I've made it, is when I feel like I'm free. I am free to do everything that I want to do. I've built NIMA, like I want to feel not tied down to anything. And I feel like that's the most powerful feeling in the world, is feeling that you're free. And so I feel like I'm close. I'm not there. And it's a very kind of fragile feeling.
So you have to plan for that, right? You had to. So you've said it's like, you know, with NIMA and all this kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So at some point down the road, so I don't know how long ago you would say, you know, this was, but at some point you had to make a decision then to say, okay, I want to get to this end goal. I have this goal over here. And I want to get there. Mm-hmm. When I'm guessing at that point though, it's kind of when you're deciding what you need to do. So you chose, you know, this NIMA thing with the NIMA verse. Mm-hmm. How many things were in your head of what you could go down? Because it's probably at that time when you're making this decision, it's like, I could do this and I could do that, and I could do this thing over there. Yeah. And you have to eventually come to a decision. What does that look like? How did you come to this decision? Because this journey you've been on, but you're still on. It's come from having a goal and you're working towards a goal, but you had to work out what that goal was. So when you came to that crossroads of actually having to pick something, what did that look like for you?
Yeah, no. So for my career goal right now as RossDraws, Tran, is to make my book NIMA into a whole world and anime series, and that's in the process. And so in my mind, if I make this Kickstarter, I use my fan base and I use the success from the Kickstarter. There's established fan base, my following, and give it all the juice it needs to be greenlit into an original anime. I feel like that's my career goal. Yeah, I've made it. And I feel like I'm slowly heading down that path. And like, so every decision was to kind of grow this world into being something people really want. And the studios are like, hey, there's a huge demand for this. And if we're not going to buy it, someone else is going to get it. And I'm just building myself and my brand up to a point where it has a lot of substance and value.
Yeah, it's something we see often from many artists that I know is they've always had a personal IP project. And even though they're working at a studio or freelancing, they have this side project that their IP that really is their goal for them. And whether it's making a book out of it or a series or a movie, that's super important to them as creatives.
Oh, 100%. I feel like every friend artist that I've met has something that's there inside of them or trying to make. You can see when an artist shifts styles or has a revelation. Like everyone had that, like Shinadi, right? He had that, like you can pinpoint the moment where they're like, I'm going to just do me. Like, screw it all. I'm just going to switch. And I think it's really beautiful because I feel like they've found something inside of them where they've broken free from the traditional mold and are able to just do something that they want to do. And you can feel it because it's from them.
But isn't that from, so just coming back to what we were talking about earlier, is in you build a following and you're doing this building process of you as a brand, you as a person, you as an artist. It's kind of like almost money in the bank, so that when you finally take that leap of faith into, okay, I'm going to create my thing, that it's, you have all this credibility already built up behind it. So almost like all this stuff you're doing before it is you building towards this goal. And the same with any artist said, you see it, is they do a lot of groundwork, building their brand, building reputation, their credibility, their portfolio, whatever it might be. So that when they take that leap to go, okay, this is my thing, they have a bunch of people who go, yeah, this guy probably can do it because he's done all this other stuff in the past, which is really, really cool. So like, I guess it's mirrored in every artist. When you're saying when they take that leap or that they have that transition, it's them. They've done the years of legwork to almost earn the right to do this, if that makes sense. So with that being said, though, with NIMA, and you have to excuse me a little bit because I don't understand the law behind it, or at least who's behind the law. I'm asking an upfront question. I love all the designs of the characters. Are you both designing the characters and you're writing all this law and all of this is like, do you have anyone helping you with the story of it? Because from the looks of it, like what I've seen of it, it's like it's so rich. It's not just a pretty picture. It's got all this personality and obviously the characters will interact as law. Are you doing all of that yourself as well?
Yes. So the world of NIMA, the aesthetic and the whole world is mine, and I have stories I want to tell, but I'm not a writing major. It's hard for me to kind of elegantly put my world onto paper sometimes. And so I brought on a lead writer to help connect the web and connect the dots. I'm like, all right, this is NIMA when she's in season 3, this is going to happen to her, etc. And so I have someone to help world build and connect the dots with me.
Okay, I was going to say, that's too much talent for one man to have.
No, I wish I can write. I think poetry and writing is like awesome, and I wish, but it's all in my head.
You need someone just to transcribe it for you. There's one thing that's in the back of my mind when I think about this and the story you've been telling.
Yeah.
Do you, and I've seen this with other artists and other creatives, you've got this idea of what you've got NIMA. Say, for example, you Netflix come along and go, I want 4 seasons of this or 3 seasons, or whatever it might be, and you get it, and you write it, and you get to the end. Do you have any other little gems in the back of your mind though, like where you're like, okay, let's explore that. I've got this other world, or like this other arc we need to explore, this other character. Like, does that ever enter your mind, or you just like, no, we've got all of this to worry about right now. I'm only worrying about this.
I personally think the best things come when you have an open mind, and so I have strong ideal, but I'm always open to hearing what people think, because like they're voicing it for a reason. People have good idea, and so I am never closed off to hearing what someone else like opinion for the world is. But I'm like, hey, but if I do have an idea that's very strong, I will fight for it, and here's my reason why. And if they can match me and have a strong argument against it, I will listen. Then we'll choose what's best for the world and the project. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. I'm just imagining what it'd be like. I'm not in that position. I'm not involved in any IPs which are my own. I'll just imagine how difficult that would be to have that conversation. Okay, here's what I want to do, and someone says, "Well, hold on. Okay, I see what you're trying to do there, but what about this?" And you're like, part of you's like, well, this is mine, but actually, you might be onto something there. Like, that conversation, I can't imagine is easy. Or that relationships is not easy.
Yeah, no, it's not. I think what's essential to any project being made is having a good team and having a team that complements well with one another, and also is different. And that's like hard to find. That's why good teams are hard to form. But you can tell when a game or a movie is awesome and it's like, it just works, because I feel like the team is very strong.
Yeah.
And so,
Maybe talk about the team that you have for the YouTube channel, because everybody sees you on the screen. Right. You're the star of the show. But what goes into making an episode? What's the team like there, and what are the roles?
I think for the first 3.5 years, it was all me.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm that team. And then I think there was a point where I was like, oh my God.
This is getting too big.
I think it's just like the demand and what I can offer. I think for the first 3 years, I was like, I wish there was more of me. I want to edit, because I have to edit, write. I have to work on the drawing. I have to do all the effects. And I have to post. Oh my God, social media is a whole nother beast, because I have to post to every social site, and then I have to plan the next week's video. So for the first maybe 3.5 years, it was just me. And then I started bringing on an assistant. I just brought on a video manager to help me edit some videos. And then I contracted some editing work to my editor Jinx in the UK. And so slowly, very slowly, the team has formed. I feel like we're still very, very early. But I feel like, that small team is starting to form. A little bit. Yeah.
So even at the YouTube channel, there must be occasions where your team is saying, no, I think we should do this, Ross, I think we should do that. And you're having to bounce back and forth and have discussions, just as what we were talking before about what could happen in the future with NIMA and NIMAverse.
Yeah, I feel like for the YouTube channel, for the YouTube videos, we all have one objective, right? We want to deliver wholesome, awesome RossDraws content. And it's very interesting to hear other people oh, we should do this. I'm like, oh, I didn't think of that. And so everything in the conversation, everything, I try to make things collaborative. I usually come up with hey, I want to do this. Let's try to make this episode. And they're like, okay, this is something we can do. And so they help figure out my ideas, and I think everything is a collaborative conversation, because we all have the same goal. I don't want to be someone that just hey, we need to do exactly this, because that's no fun for me. I think it's the most fun when we're trying to figure it out together. Yeah.
What's the most challenging part of an episode, putting a show together?
The most challenging part about putting a video together, well, there's a couple hard parts, but usually when I haven't filmed in a while and I have to film again, that first hour is so hard because it's like retraining my muscle to be like, because I want to deliver an energy to my audience that like people come to my channel be inspired and to learn. And so I don't want to diminish that experience. And so I don't want to be like, hey guys, welcome. Today we're gonna draw. And yeah. So I never want to do that, you know. I always want to go and like, hey guys, today we are here and we're gonna draw something awesome. And so I have to reopen that energy channel and make sure what I'm saying is clear, understandable, and sometimes I slur over words, obviously. And so I'm always writing in my head. I don't have a script, right? I'm never like, there's no script in front of me. So I'm always rewording things as I go, like, hey, we're going to pick up this brush. All right, now grab your brush and we're going to do this. So there's like a lot of different ways to say the same sentence. And I'm always writing things in my head. And so I think the writing process is a muscle. And the hardest part, I think, when filming is to, because I don't have a script, I don't like scripts. Like I'm best on the cuff. And so because I don't have a script, I have to like write on the spot in a way and rewrite. Yeah.
I was thinking how the video's going. I'm like, oh shit, he's doing that all on the fly. That's crazy.
Yeah, there's like rough parameters. Like, all right, I'm going to talk about brushes here. I'm going to talk about painting clouds here. But like the way you tell that information, I'm always kind of rewriting because I remembered that you can say it better. And so I was like, oh, let's scrap that take. I have something better, kind of thing. And yeah.
Yeah. So what makes a great episode? Like what's the measure of success for you and your team on a great episode?
That has changed over the years. Obviously, like people like numbers, but I think if I'm happy with, so a success for a video, if I'm happy with the content and I feel like it represents who I am, maybe I've teach something, I've made them laugh. I think if they can step away from a video feeling inspired and wanting to create something themselves, I've succeeded. And I read it in the comments sometime, like, oh wow, this video was so inspiring. I can't wait to draw my character. That right there, I think is my like measure for success, because I feel like it's all about paying it forward. My channel is about good vibes, good energy, and if that's what I gave in the video, then I feel like I've done my job.
So how do you know when that happens?
That's tricky, because I feel like over time you kind of know when you've done it. I think when like a very face-to-face success is the fans at conventions. I truly feel like I have the best fans, like because they are genuine. They just want to create. They want to draw. They're happy. And that's what my channel is. And so when I meet the fans, they're like, wow, this video series really inspired me. I want to create my own character. Wow. Like I learned so much from this one video. Like, thank you so much for that. I can't wait to make my own environments. That is like a one-to-one feedback of, I feel like, my success. It's like, wow, I've actually helped people kind of achieve their craft.
I suppose a measurable for it as well as like social media. You know, if you see like a bunch of people, a particular video, like, hey, this was really useful, like on Twitter or something, and suddenly people are like quote retweeting, yeah, this was really helpful for me. Because I tend to find like I'm the same. I don't really like metrics. I don't like numbers because numbers can lie to you sometimes.
Yeah.
And then you get like, you know, ridiculous comments like, you know, oh yeah, bad press is good press. It's like, no, like if people are watching my video and they're not liking it, that's an issue. And I always think social media tends to be like a good metric in just that if lots of people are sharing and saying how useful it is, it's like, that's more than just a like on a video because they've gone that extra 2 steps to say, this isn't just only good and I'm not going to tell you it's good. I'm going to tell the rest of my friends how good it is.
Yeah.
I feel that's quite a good barometer for that sort of stuff.
I think the coolest and weirdest part is seeing people like share on the Instagram story that they're watching my stuff with their friends.
Right.
I'm like, you know what I mean? I'm very much kind of like in my own art cave and my own world, and to see people like my video playing and their friends are watching. Someone, I think a teacher showed their classroom my videos, and I'm like, it's like because it's a weird, crazy feeling that I'm still getting used to, is like my videos being shared. Yeah.
That's actually pretty cool to hear. I've always sort of felt like, I mean, when my education with art was, I was a young kid, I was like into graffiti art and tattoo art and all this kind of stuff. And it was like, if I wasn't into fine art, my art teacher didn't want to know. So just the idea that an art teacher's like, hey, there's this fantastic YouTuber who's created really good content and digital art. I'm going to show my class. It's like, it's very modern. And it's nice to hear because, growing up, in my relationship with art schools was not the best. So the head teachers are being like, using modern artists, like, look, you could do this. And it's not just, I guess it's also showing art as a career. It's not just, okay, this is how you draw. It's like, here's this guy. He's doing fantastic. He's got this great YouTube channel. He's got his brand. He's got a business. He's got a career from his art. And it's doing more when the teacher's showing the kids your stuff. It's not just, here's how to draw. It's like, here's a lifestyle you could potentially have if you give yourself to art.
Right.
Yeah, that's pretty surreal to think.
Yeah, no, I think at a very early point in my career, I think first year I've done YouTube and I went to a convention. That moment changed my life. It's the first time I met my fans who were watching my stuff. Because for the first year, I've done it all kind of for myself, like, I want to show the world I can draw, and I want to kind of like show you can learn and stuff like that. But not until you meet your first like viewer or follower, and they express how much your channel like impacts them. And I met my first fan crying, and that gave me a whole new purpose. I'm like, wow, this channel is not for me. This is actually for them. I can inspire. I have a platform to do better. And I think that moment changed my entire look at how I create content. It's like, it's not for me anymore. Now I feel like it's really about using my platform to spread education, happiness, good vibes, and good energy.
When you realize that you can make a difference.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess this ties into an interesting word then, doesn't it? Like, you have essentially a legacy. And to be honest, I've thought about this with your book, and me and Kevin talk about this, is I guess the book is almost like the ultimate form of leaving. You've got a YouTube channel, and, you never know, Google might implode and YouTube disappears, and it's like, okay, fine. But a book transcends all that. And I guess that's the ultimate form of like a legacy in terms of, this is me, this is my idea, this is my IP, and this can't just disappear to technology. Like, this is an everlasting thing. Do you get that feeling from it? Is that why the book might be a particularly special thing for you?
I feel like it's so special to hold something.
Right.
It's a very emotional connection to hold something that you made. And I feel like that's getting lost in today's world. We're losing the value of like emotional connection and intimacy and what's real. Like, everyone wants the digital version and read, but to hold something and to experience it in real life, I felt like I feel like it's very human feeling. And that's why I encourage any artist to create their own art book. It's because they're experiencing it not on like a screen, but wow, I've made something, that's all kind of we want as like kids. We want to build our own world. We want our own art, and to finally hold something that you made, I think is truly, truly special.
Yeah. It transcends generations too. Yeah. We can show that book to our parents, our grandparents, and then they understand, that's what you do. Yeah. Even though it's a small piece of it, it's like, this something real. I can hold it. I can give it to someone, and they can look at it without a screen. Yeah. It's very special.
Yeah.
I don't think of that aspect, to be fair, actually, Kevin. Showing your parents.
Yeah.
Like, you can't show your parents like, hey, here's my ArtStation. And like, oh, what's ArtStation? Here's my Instagram. Oh, what's Instagram? Here's a book.
Right.
Like, my mum could hold that and understand it, even though she don't understand technology, bless her.
Yeah, no. So there's 2,600 copies of the limited edition, and so I gave number one to my mom for Mother's Day, and saying that she's the greatest mom ever, and like there's no one better than her, and she cried.
Yeah.
It was like such an intimate kind of feeling for her. Like, wow, my only son made this book, and this is 10 years of sacrifices and hard work, and this is what he made. Like, and she held it, and I think she cried. She told me she cried, so I'm a believer.
So it's interesting that it has a different effect than, hey, mom, our video that we did together just got 1 million views or 2 million views.
Right.
Doesn't cause her to cry, but yeah, this does.
Yeah, holding something I made her cry. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, it's something, as you mentioned, for every artist to make sure to share your work in physical form.
100%. Yeah, that's why like people love making picture books, you know, like, hey, this is our 1 year anniversary, here's a picture book. Or people love making collecting their children's drawing, putting into a book. It's like something you can hold and experience. It's that human experience that you can't take away. And I think like the world can use more of that.
No, it's, you know what, it's a conversation I had with a friend. He's a AAA games artist, Chris Radsby, and he works on like he works for Ubisoft on like The Division, but his personal art's all very stylized and artistic. I don't know if you see behind me, I've actually got one of his prints up in my office, and it's this idea of like when something is physical, when you make the art physical, it's like you're proud of it. It's a social thing. Like when you look at art on the internet, it's you don't share that experience with someone. Whereas if the art's in your house hanging up, if you have the book on your bookshelf, it's this element of pride that I'm proud to have this work aesthetically show off my taste. You know, your taste, and it's harder for it's. I'm just thinking what he said, because it's kind of like I can make art that people want to hang in a house. You know, that's the ultimate sense of pride for him. And I'm like, for the particular industry, which is the games industry, it's very hard to get to that because it's all very technical and boring. But it's just that social aspect of like what the physical thing does. Like I said, you know, having your book on a bookshelf, or like, you know, your prints on someone's wall, it's as a fan, or someone as a fan of art, it's like, I'm proud to say this is part of my taste. And then you have an effect, and then it's like this, without getting too philosophical, then you have this like impact on culture, on artistic taste. It's just a very interesting impact the art has outside of just making a YouTube channel. Like you said, like, you know, technology will change, new platforms will come along. In 20 years, YouTube might not exist, and you know, all of these millions and millions of views. It's like, okay, that's cool. Posters don't disappear, prints don't disappear, books don't disappear. And it's kind of, although people might, you know, the younger people might say, oh, it's archaic, it doesn't matter having, you know, a book. What's the point in a book when I can have a website portfolio for it? There is a very intimate element to it. And yeah, it's got me thinking about what Chris was saying about, and you know, making art that people are proud of, having a house is a very difficult thing to do. I think you managed to do that with both prints and this, you know, an amazing art book.
I feel like recently, last year, I felt it a year and a half ago, I fell in love with making physical things. Like a shirt, seeing my fan wear a shirt of mine, I'm like, what? First you have to like me enough to buy my stuff, to wear it, to walk around, to display it. I'm like, that's such a crazy feeling. I'm like, whoa. Like, people send me like art of mine hanging on the wall. And so I think everything, my whole journey has been a realization about like what I want to do, and tweak my compass, my like moral career compass, personal compass, to what I want to say to the world. And I think every experience has like shaped me to try to do better.
So what are some of those messages that, now that you have the platform, you have that platform to send messages? What do you think that the world is lacking that you'd like to tell them?
I think my best advice is to always find your truth, and to find your light, and to always kind of tell your do what you want to do that truly makes you happy. And that feeling of when you're a kid of just playing and having fun, that's like that's the best feeling in the world. It's just, you're free, and I think we're always trying to tap back to that childhood mindset of just like doing what you want to do, like no restriction. There's no problems holding you back. You just you just feel free and happy. And so if I were to tell someone like, hey, like an advice, like try to tap back into that mindset of happiness and being free. And because there's so much bad energy nowadays, there is cancel culture. There's a lot of negative people trying to bring you down. There is like a lot of separation. And it's like, that's all stuff that was developed after being a kid. Like no kid comes into the world going like knowing all that or like even thinking that. That was taught onto us. And the message I'm always trying to say is like, hey, that's all noise, guys. Remember that feeling that we had when we like love to draw and the happiness and the good vibes, good energy. Like, I feel like that's what the world needs. And so finding your light and your truth will help reignite that. I feel like Alex is like going through this transformative.
It's just interesting. It's just basically mirroring a lot of stuff. I've got a lot into like sort of psychology, and people have spoken about this. Like it's because a lot of the stuff you're talking about mirrors the professional arc and career of somebody like you and anybody in it who has a job. It's like, you're a kid, you're full of potential, you can do anything. Literally, the whole world is your oyster. You can do whatever you want. And you go on an apprenticeship to become more singular. You become more narrow, conform. So say, for example, yourself, I'm going to become a 2D artist. Okay, I want to do 2D art, 2D art, 2D art. You go down this narrow point and you reach a point where it's like, well, let's get back to where I had all this potential as a kid and I could do anything. And it's like, I've heard this story told many times in different formats in different ways. They all have that parallel of, you start off full of potential, you narrow yourself down into a particular thing, and then you get to the point where let's get back to just being as free as we were when we were kids, where you did whatever you want for the sake of doing it because it was happiness. And it's just always makes me smile when I hear this story, because it's like there's a lot of artists I've looked up to over the years who have said similar things, and it's like it's always just reassuring especially for when you're younger or when you're early on in your career and you're struggling or frustrated with art or whatever it might be, you're not making headway, and you keep hearing the same successful people say the same story of, keep doing it, you'll get to the point where it becomes fun or whatever it might be. And it's like, it's great. It's good for just refocusing and just going, I should just trust the process because all these great people keep telling me. And all the artists I've followed over the years have all been AAA games artists. You're somebody from a completely different walk of life, completely different field, saying the exact same story. And it's like, this works. It works. It works. And it's always refreshing. It makes me smile every time I hear it.
Yeah,
I sounded too soppy.
People get scared when they're like, "Oh, nothing's coming out of it. Nothing's coming out of it," or like they're like, "Oh, I've done it for so long and nothing coming out of it." It's like, it's your journey. Just trust in the process. I like the first 3 years of my channel, I didn't make any money, I was basically a struggling artist in a way. And luckily I had my Patreon, but if you trust your compass and your truth and just keep walking in that direction, it'll all work out. And I feel like I want to remind my audience that just trust in the process and don't worry about anything else but your truth and how you feel.
So what's coming up next? Talk a little bit about what people can find in the book, and then love to hear what's happening next.
No, I feel like this is like my basically childhood dream come true. NIMA, I've turned it into, I feel like I made a world. That's ultimately what I want to do. As a kid, I just wanted to build world and character, and so I feel like I've made it in here. There are 17 characters. It's both like a narrative cinematic art book and a traditional art book. So it's both like a comic and also an art book. And it was hard for me to kind of make this because there is no example of you can either do a comic or, you can either do an art book. But I just dug within. I'm like, hey, how do you want to do it, Ross? Like, what do you want to do? And then I kind of just made it. So it's hard to fully say what like this book is, but it's just a journey. It is an adventure. You learn about the world, and also you learn the first chapter of NIMA's journey and how she came to be. And I feel like I would not let myself or any of my audience down. So everything you could hope for is in this book. I focus a lot on characters and typography. I put everything I personally love inside this book. Like, I love video games, and so they're like stat bars, they're indexes and signature moves. Like, why not? Like, before, when I was like talking and thinking, I'm like, I want to add this here, but I'm not sure it'll work. And then I say, why not? This is your book. Just, if you love it, you want it, just put it in, because that's what you love to do. And so everything in this book I personally love. And it was going to be bigger, but that costed more money. And I didn't have that much money to like make it into a huge book. But so every single page is like designed, laid out. It is what I want to say. Yeah. So I'm super excited for everyone to finally like just sit down and just experience an art book. I feel like we're missing that. We're like scrolling all the time. We're liking things. We're favoriting things. But I don't think a lot of people forget, like, hey, you can sit down and just read something. You can like sit down and experience something. And I feel like I gave that with NIMA, and I'm really excited to see how people feel and people be immersed inside her world and create their own world. That's my biggest message with NIMA. Is I hope that me following my gut and my truth about making my own world can inspire you to make your own world.
Not a bad message to finish up on.
That's a great message, yeah. So what's coming up after? Given, I guess, our current context with the pandemic has put a bit of a damper on plans for you and what you had probably were looking forward to going to conferences and so on. But what kind of projects are you working on?
Yeah, so I'm always looking for the future, like obviously COVID dampened everybody's plans. Like, everyone thought 2020 was going to be their year. Everyone was like, 2020, I'm going to be the best. I'm going to change. I'm going to do all this. And everyone was hit with reality. Nope. Here's a pandemic. Here's BLM. Here is a weird Trump president doing weird things. Everyone is just confused. 2020 is the year of confusion. But what's on the horizon, I'm still trying to push forward with my plan to make this an anime. And so there is a special anime short I've been working on with the team for a whole year. It's going to debut in August. I'm not sure when this is coming out, but if there's one thing in my whole entire career and life, this is probably my favorite thing I've ever seen. It is my favorite thing because it's just seeing my characters come to life, and I'm having a song made, and like I helped write this lyrics, and it's exactly what I want to say in my life, and it's called "Find Your Light." And this piece of creative endeavor is my favorite thing, and I'm confident to say that my childhood self would be proud and would be extremely happy that I made this for him. And after that comes out, hopefully that turns into an anime. Next year is a NIMA tour. I want to help bring the world of NIMA to people that want to be immersed into the world and experience it in person. And so I think it's always looking forward, and there's a lot to do. And so we're just stepping in that direction.
So on that note, you're presented with a lot of ideas, and there's a lot of opportunities and things that you could do. How do you decide what to do and what not to do?
That's the hardest. I literally have 20 things on my plate I want to do. I want to make an app. I want to make like all this other thing. And I think it's trusting, because I think we're in a society where we want now. Prime now, 1 day delivery. No, I want it right now. Everything is very instant. And so I think it's me trusting in the process and try to figure out, what do you feel good doing next? Then I feel like that's the right answer. if you feel good about your decision and your next step of what you want to do, I feel then everything is justifiable. I felt good about it. And if it turns bad, we can only learn from our experiences, right? It'll tweak our compass. And so I think everyone has made bad decisions, but it tweaked and helped us refine our decision-making skill. And so I think we're all still learning. But the way I figure out what I want to do next is basically if I feel good about it.
It's funny, you said, everything's justifiable. And the fact that I tend to use fear. People tend to not want to do things. When it comes to a decision, they're scared of making the wrong decision. Mm-hmm. And I learned this from as I read a book by Jordan Peterson, and it was basically, he talked about don't be scared of what happens if it goes wrong. Be scared of what happens if you don't do it. So if you don't make a decision, how scary the consequences of that could be of indecision. And you're talking about is exactly that. Is just do something, and you know what, you could justify because I wanted to do it. If it goes wrong, I can learn from it. But it's almost like, what happens if I don't do it? What happens if I choose to do nothing because I'm paralyzed by choice? And then 20 years later, I've got all these ideas and ambitions, and I didn't do anything with them. Right. It's just mirroring a lot of things I've heard in the past, and it's just reassuring to keep hearing it.
Yeah. No, it's very interesting. The ability to say no to things is important, like being able to say no, because as you get more forward in your career, and there's so many options that come across, and you won't necessarily be able to do them all really, really well. So you have to choose the ones that you're willing to focus on, and you've made a few choices about the ones that you're focusing on now, and despite there being other things that you want to do. And I mean, the part of that is just being creative and being excited about life and having so many options. And I've always enjoyed your positive attitude to
thank you.
And your positive. So it's encouraging. I think it's going to be encouraging for a lot of artists.
Yeah. I mean, I hope to always, share my truth and my message to fellow artists, and just find your happiness, create the world you want to create, or whatever that may be.
Yeah. All right. So just want to remind everybody, so please follow Ross at artstation.com/RossDraws, and you'll get lots of updates on his activity there. Sign up or buy the book. It's available for pre-order, but also probably when this is going live, it's going to be available for purchase. So please, there's the regular edition, and there's also a limited numbered edition that is going to run out very, very quickly. So you want to get your hands on that. Also check out Ross's ArtStation Marketplace. He's got lots of stuff uploaded there, tutorials and demos. So you can learn a lot from him. And don't forget to subscribe to RossDraws on YouTube. Thanks again, Ross. It's been a great time chatting with you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I ArtStation, is the hub. The community at ArtStation is so special. It represents, it's niche, but it's getting bigger and bigger. And I'm so happy to see it grow. And I'm so happy for you guys. And thank you for having me on. And I hope we can connect soon in the near future.
Yeah, absolutely.
See you on ArtStation.com, the global hub for creative professionals. You've been listening to the ArtStation podcast. Hit subscribe so that you don't miss an episode. And please leave a rating and review for the podcast. We promise we'll read them all. See you next time.